Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180 for the best in Saturday talk radio. With your host Clay Kerner and I'm Marty Pay. Clay, we had a great show last week with Ted Fowler and Michael Bowers talking about redistricting. Clay, good morning.
Well, I don't have any headphones, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
But I will tell you this: if you have an opportunity right now, folks, go outside and look up at the sun. It's the weirdest cloud. Go look around the sun right now.
That is interesting too. I wonder what that is. You don't have any answers for that?
The end of the world.
The end of the. Oh, great! Thank you. So is that now, or do we get to go till 2:00 before?
2:00. It's over.
Okay, 2:01. It's the end of the world. Okay. One thing about last weekend, I'm still having a hard time with, and that's accepting what Ted and the other GM stockholders getting the shaft the way they did. It seems really un-American. You know, what they did is they wiped out 100 years of bankruptcy law just like that to satisfy and protect the unions. Speaking of unions, next week we have a tentative guest, two of them, and we're going to talk about a bill to stop special interest money and maybe start changing the way business is done in California politics. That would kind of be a great thing if we can do that. But before we go to our guests today, I wanted to make a comment about two events. This coming Thursday at 6 o'clock at the Doubletree, we're going to have an event called the Second Annual Fundraiser for Stop the Violence, and you can contact our buddy Harley Pinson or Sean Battle at 427-3993, or go online at spbattle@hotmail.com. Second comment, Clay, I wanted to make. You and I were at a fundraiser for CSUB Athletics.
Great fundraiser the other night.
Yeah, a lot of people there. One thing that really, really impressed me is Dr. Mitchell, the president of the college, stood by the gate and said hello to everyone as they came in. And my hat's off to him. That just struck me as such a classy thing for him to do. And he's a class act, and we're lucky to have him in our community.
Had his wife with him, too. Give her some credit.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've never met his wife. I didn't realize that was his wife there.
Well, you should have introduced yourself.
Well, I was counting on you to do that for me. But,
God, I've never met her either.
Really? Okay. But today on the show, we've got two friends, pillars of the community, the city council member from Ward 7, Russell Johnson, and in studio we have the new director of the Small Business Development Center, an old friend of the program, and I think, if I remember right, Brandon Martin was our first guest, wasn't he?
He was.
Our
They're not
very first
pillars
show?
of the community. They're young pillars, so they're just coming into their own now.
So what would you call a young pillar? Would it be any different than an old pillar?
Maybe a board.
A board? Well, okay. Russell, welcome to Taking Care of Business, and Brandon, welcome.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Russell, I understand you're at a wedding today.
Well, I'm getting ready to go to a wedding. I'm actually down south at my in-laws in Orange County, and we're heading to Long Beach for a wedding at about 4 o'clock. So.
Oh, great. Okay, so you're down in another conservative bastion in California. There's not too many left.
No, it's true. California's a tough state. But, you know, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the good work of folks like Brandon out there starting new businesses in the conservative areas of Kern County with the small business work he does, you know, it would be a lot harder for us. But thanks, Brandon, for what you do in your new role.
Thank you, Russell.
So, Brandon, do you want to throw a compliment to Russell? I mean, since or
you know, I've been complimenting Russell ever since I met him.
I know.
My first real interaction with Russell came as a result of his getting to know my girlfriend, and I know that sounds like it's going to lead to a joke on the Marty and Clay show.
Especially since your girlfriend is sitting here in between you and Clay.
She is.
Hi, Heather.
They both worked at the county together, and he was such a class act. Before he became Russ the politician that we know, he was Russ the class act who'd always introduce himself and get to know people in the community. It's one of the reasons why he's such a successful council person today.
Well, Brandon, from one pillar to another, thank you.
Well, I think it's from one board to another.
One board to another.
That's right.
That's it.
Yes, we established since you're young pillars, you are on our boards.
And tell Heather I said hi.
Hey, Russell, the city's got some money problems. What are you guys going to do about? What are you going to do about it?
Well, actually, it's interesting you bring that up. When you look at the city's financial situation compared to other cities, and you put it in perspective, we're actually a lot better off than some of the other communities out there. And let me give you a couple examples. Stockton, they're dealing with a $34 million budget deficit. They're having to look at eliminating more than 200 jobs and rolling back services. Victorville, they're facing insolvency, as some recent headlines have said, with a deficit of over $5.3 million, which is over 10% of their budget.
What's our deficit, Russell, in Bakersfield?
We actually don't have a deficit.
Okay.
And as we get into it, you look at other cities like Costa Mesa having to lay off its employees. You look at Modesto, it's got a 9.7 general fund deficit. The city of Vista laying off 7 workers. I mean, I can keep going on. But the fact of the matter is Bakersfield's in a pretty good spot. As a matter of fact, when you look at some of our budget issues, right now in this year's budget that's been proposed, and as we're starting our budget hearings, which we did during the first week of May, it looks like we're going to be able to save 17 police officer positions that we thought were going to be eliminated due to the expiration of TARP money. TARP money came in, allowed us to keep officers employed for 2 years. But the trade-off was that we had to keep them employed for 2 years after we got that money. And because our financial situation's improved a little bit, we're able to do so. And there's some reasons why Bakersfield's in a little bit of a better spot than some communities.
And what's that?
Well, you look at our sales tax revenue, and we're up 18% just in the fourth quarter last year alone. We had our first 2 solid quarters in the third quarter and the fourth quarter of 2010 of positive sales tax growth. And we actually had positive sales tax growth over last year's numbers. And when you look at that, that's a positive for the city of Bakersfield. One other thing, when you look at the city of Bakersfield's revenue sources, we have many different revenue sources, but over 60% of the budget comes from property taxes and sales taxes. And you look at our property tax numbers from 2009 to 2010, we were about $57 million in property tax revenue. That's a huge drop from the year before, where it was 2008, 2009. But last year's numbers and our projected numbers for this year are over 60,000. So 60 million. So while we're up $3 million, it shows a reversal of that trend where we took a huge hit from 08 and 09 to 09 and 10. So the city of Bakersfield's finances are improving from that perspective.
Well, it's been said that the economy would turn around first in Kern County and the city of Bakersfield. Have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. Well, who was it? I think Forbes magazine actually is the one that released that information, yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. And when you're talking about the property tax revenues being up, and we're looking at foreclosures higher than they've ever been, it's really hard to understand. And I wondered where we'd be if we didn't have such a bad real estate market.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you what, you look at all this into perspective, and there's threats that are looming on the horizon. I mean, let's put aside for a moment the threat of state capture. As we know, when the state comes down and says, oh, we're going to take your money, that means it's going to make it much more difficult for us as a city to provide the basic services like police on the streets, fixing potholes, all those basic things which people take for granted as a normal fact of life. But most importantly, let's look at this oil severance tax proposal, which is going to be put forward in Sacramento. There's actually a hearing on it on Monday. And I'll put this into perspective for you for Kern County. AB, I think it's 1362 is the proposal. It's a 12.5% oil severance tax on oil production within the state of California. Now, as you guys know, with oil field production work done in Kern County, we have a heavy crude. It takes a lot more work, a lot more investment to get the crude to come out of the ground. So as a result, any increase in cost on Kern County-based production, Bakersfield-based production, makes other production in other states where they have lighter crude more enticing. And the shifting of those dollars around could happen. Now, why is that significant to Bakersfield? I'll bring this into perspective for you.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back, pick up where you just left off there, okay? If
That's
you would.
Perfect.
Okay, appreciate that. We're having a conversation with City Council Member Russell Johnson on taking care of business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.